Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today's topic are the Chaos Dwarfs, more specifically all possible legendary characters, so without further ado, let's begin. The Chaos Dwarfs are one of the last remaining races of the Warhammer Fantasy Battles universe that have received an official army book and yet have not been implemented into the Total War Warhammer series. If rumours are to be believed that Total War Warhammer 3 will focus around the eastern reaches of the Warhammer world, which includes the Darklands, it is only a matter of time until the Chaos Dwarfs get implemented into the series, whether as a core game race or as a race pack. We've already spoken about their units extensively, so in this video I'd like to focus upon their characters. For our first spot we have Ostrogoth Ironhand, High Priest of Hackheart, known to be the oldest living sorcerer prophet. Long ago, in his prime, Ostrogoth was considered to be the most powerful of all the sorcerer prophets, but as is the fate of all Darwizar sorcerers, he is slowly succumbing to petrification. It has been many years since his legs had freedom of movement, and his hands have long since turned to stone. This has not stopped Ostrogoth, however, for with the use of his many slaves and the dark sciences of the Darwizar, he has begun to replace parts of his body that are no longer of use to him with that of machinery. This has allowed him to stay fairly active within his race, despite his now waning abilities to harness the winds of magic. His newfound physical strength still allows him to be considered a threat. I'd imagine that this character was implemented into the game series, Ostrogoth would follow suit of a hybrid type lord, mostly focus around melee damage due to his mechanical frame, but also have limited access to certain spells from the lore of Hackheart. Given that he is also mostly mechanical at this point, it could be that his specific faction would provide natural buffs to war machines within his army. For our second spot we have Zartan the Black, the commander of the Tower of Zar. While he is the subordinate of Gorf the Cruel, Zartan is a master slaver, feared by all those he takes charge of. It is said that the only thing louder than the sounds of the slaves being tortured in the Tower of Zar is that of Zartan's own laughter as he watches over them. He has led many expeditions in an effort to secure more slaves for his master, crushing any greenskin army that stands up to him, and is one of the very few Chaos Dwarfs who openly travels. Many of the goblin tribes that he may come across willingly hand over their own kin as slaves to Zartan in an effort to save their own skin. Zartan serves his master willingly, knowing full well Gorf is one of the very few that can keep up with the demands for more and more weaponry, so long as he returns with slaves. A mutual benefit that works nicely for both. Zartan is a melee-focused lord character and honestly makes the most sense as a possible legendary lord, due to the fact that he is known to travel often in search for slaves. This means that he could basically be anywhere in the map, thus allowing for a different start position and could be fair enough far away from the Darklands. Zartan has two known possible mount options, the Great Taurus or the Lamassu, so he would also benefit from the form of flying monstrous cavalry. For our third spot we have Gorf the Cruel. We can touch upon this character briefly as we have already mentioned him. He is one of the most powerful sorcerer prophets. This will be a reoccurring theme in the video, and thus has one of the strongest voices in the conclave of sorcerers that gather in the Temple of Hackheart. The character itself has no official model, much like many of the Darwizar characters, and pretty much all of his established lore has already been discussed in this video, but there is potential here, as he is a clean slate and can be imagined to be a completely unique character. This is completely dependent on how Creative Assembly want to go about things, as literally most of the Chaos Dwarf characters has no official model or just very little lore to go about them too. For our fourth spot we have Rycoff the Unbreakable. Courageous and tough, even by Darwizar standards, it is said that Rycoff knows no fear, going as far as staring into the eyes of Archaon the Ever-Chosen without flinching. It is said that none can inspire the Darwizar in battle more than Rycoff can. His army has no need for a battle standard bearer, for his presence alone was enough to bolster the resolve of his warriors. I imagine should this character ever be implemented, he would be a legendary lord type, where he would focus around melee damage as could be expected, but most of his stuff would basically fall around buffing of his units, where even the early game stuff could be considered top tier when he's max ranked. For our fifth spot we have Tordrek Hackheart, once one of the most talented dwarf engineers in Barak Var, Unfortunately, his greed and his jealousy towards his rivals saw him expelled from the Dwarf Engineers Guild, which secured his descent into darkness. He made his escape from Barakvar on his warship the Black Kraken, and since then has found himself under the tutelage of the Chaos Dwarfs. Yes, this character technically isn't a Chaos Dwarf, but he joins their ranks nonetheless. What also makes this character most interesting is that not only does he join the ranks of the Chaos Dwarfs, but also forms an allegiance with the Dreadfleet. Honestly, if anything, I wouldn't like to see this character implemented as a legendary lord, but instead as a legendary hero choice for Count Noctilus when this race has eventually been released. It would be nice to see Count Noctilus have his old Dreadfleet crew together. For our 6th spot we have Drazhof, known as the Ashen and the Lord of the Black Fortress. He is the commander of the Legion of Asgore, an army of Darwizar who have a fairly unique look when compared to their other brethren. This is the Forge World variant, which has the metal suit look rather than big hats. He is a mighty sorcerer and a powerful warrior who leads his armies from atop of his great Taurus, Cinderbreath, as they rain fire and destruction upon their enemy. Many claim he is a sorcerer without rival, but as you can see when we talk about different sorcerer prophets here, many has been said the same way about them too, so it could just be arrogance on their part. That being said, a unique way to implement him could be a unique skin for his army, where every other Chaos Dwarf faction would have access to the big hat variant of troops, but Drazhof would have access to the metal suit variant. Yes, it would probably be a bit more work, but then again it's just a reskin of anything else, and it would just make it look a bit more unique. We have to take into account that a lot of legendary lords here, especially for the Chaos Dwarfs, are very samey. We're not going to go into too much detail regarding this character, as we've already done so in the Chaos Dwarf faction focus video, but this does lead to a discussion. As you might have guessed now, the Chaos Dwarfs really didn't have that much lore and established characters, which is a massive shame considering they had their own army book back in 4th edition I believe, and obviously the expansion in 8th. Characters that were created for the Warhammer Fantasy Battles universe were usually very minor, with most of them having as much lore as Helm and Ghost, which, well, that says a lot, doesn't it? But now we have to look towards their implementation into the Total War Warhammer series. Most likely, the Chaos Dwarfs will be a core game race, mainly because they don't have that many different options. A core race normally has around 2 legendary lords, and if they were a DLC race pack, they would have to have around 4, which is the current norm. So it's easy enough to pick from the already established characters. Now, in terms of future DLC, this could present to be a problem, mainly because, as we've already established, most of these characters are very samey towards each other, so, well, it wouldn't make sense to bring in a character that's exactly the same as an already established legendary lord. Obviously, if you guys have any ideas on how these characters could be made distinct from each other, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But being completely honest here, the best way I see this possible to add in new characters would be by creating new ones altogether. Creative Assembly and Games Workshop can team up once again like they did with Diafin and create new, different and unique legendary lord characters for the Chaos Dwarfs. I know people weren't a fan of Diafin's implementation, but we have to take into account that was because there was a very large host of possible Dreadfleet characters that could have been added in instead of her. So what could be done here is the creation of a brand new lord type and a legendary lord to go alongside it, acting as an anti-version of their brethren the dwarfs. So say for example we have the Sorcerer Prophet here, which is the standard character that we have for the Chaos Dwarfs. This acts as the anti-version of the Rune Lord. The Sorcerer Prophet would wield magic as a normal wizard would, whereas the Rune Lord himself makes use of runes as a form of magic use. So with that idea in mind, I think they could create a variant of Anti-Slayer. We know of dwarf characters known as Demon Slayers, so why don't we see a Darwizar variant which would be known as a Demon Slaver? Instead of having bonuses to defeat and banish demons, the Demon Slaver might have bonuses to have more demons in its army rather than dwarfs. This would mean that you'd want to focus your efforts on recruiting Kadai, known as fire demons, or any demon engines that you might have accessible to your roster. At the very least, they could also think about creating a named Bull Centaur character, but even then, you know, those monstrous type characters aren't very common in the Total War Warhammer series. And usually they're implemented to be a bit too small. I mean, just look at Korlek for an example. But what do you guys think about the possible legendary lord characters? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know which ones you think would be the first ones to be implemented as core game race lords. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various different links to social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord, where you can get in contact with the Great Book team. Also in the description section below is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using our special link and also using our special code, both of which are in the description below, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. Honestly, it's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A special thank you to our patrons Gibraltar LUSC and Ryan Bertsche for subscribing to us at our Fane level. Honestly, you guys are super cool. And a big thank you to our patron Edward Hewell for subscribing to us at our King level. Mate, you're super awesome. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.